All right, and here we go, everybody. So we're going to go ahead and jump on in, and we're going to be creating a baseball bat. So the first thing we want to do whenever you are working here is you may want to go into your properties menu and edit properties and emulate your number pad. That way you can use your number keys to orientate yourself around. I'm going to press the number 1, and that's going to bring me to a orthographic view looking head on at my object. Now, down here in my downloads folder, I have this photo of a baseball bat. I'm going to plunk that in, and it actually appears as an image glued to a three-dimensional plane. So it is really here in three-dimensional space, but we're only seeing it in two-dimensional space right now because I clicked that number 1 and I'm looking at it in the orthographic view. What's nice is I can use this as kind of a template. Now there's many different ways that you can create a three-dimensional form. In my case, I'm going to teach you how to add a mesh. We're going to add a cylinder. And we're going to shrink this down and move it around a little bit so that it becomes kind of the handle of the baseball bat. So there we go. To do that, I'm going to need to use my scale tool. I want to scale it in proportion, so I'm going to click on that white circle, and then I'm going to click on the blue line to stretch it out and scale it vertically only, so I get a tall, long cylinder. Now notice how the baseball bat kind of flares just a little bit here as it goes from the handle into the actual kind of head of the baseball bat. So that's pretty easy to do. Once you're happy with your handle portion here, we're going to switch to edit mode. And then you see here on the top, see how it's a three-dimensional form, right? I'm going to select the top face of this circle. Oops. And so I don't want to grab these little tiny nodes. Instead, what I want to do is select the entire ring. And the best way to do that is either grab the face, or you can hold down the command key and click, and that will select the entire ring. Then click the E key to extrude, and then the S key to scale and kind of flare out that top edge. Then we're just going to keep it going. Press the E key again and extrude another portion. And again, we use the S key to scale the top. So we're slowly getting this kind of larger and larger baseball bat as it flares out toward the top. Again, I'm going to scale, or extrude again, excuse me, and scale so I get just this rounded circle part. So again, let's select our ring here, just the main face. Oops, there we go. And we'll scale it inwards. Oh, not out, there we go. Kind of inwards. And that way, it does look a little geometric, right? It's not perfectly round, and don't worry about that. We're going to smooth this out in a second. Okay, so that's basically it. Let's go down to the bottom. Let's do the handle as well. We're going to do the exact same thing. Grab that main circle, the face of that circle. We're going to extrude it down. And now you kind of want to, again, think about this like a geometric shape, right? So we need a little tiny bit, and then it's going to come out, kind of flares out. Let's make another round here. Extrude. Flare that out with the S key, scale. Oops, redo that real quick. Scale that out. Whoop, there we go. And that's where it kind of comes out. And then we'll make another portion, again, clicking the E key to extrude. And this time we're going to scale it inwards, right? See that? So there you go. All right, so that becomes the handle of our baseball bat. And that looks kind of like a baseball bat. Again, it's a little geometric, it's a little angular, but we can work with that. Okay, so at this point, we're looking pretty good. We don't really need this background piece anymore. We're going to switch back to object mode, grab your background image, and just click the X key to delete it. And there you go. You have made a baseball bat that easy just using the extrude and the scale tool. I'm going to go down to Object and Shade Smooth, and that's going to smooth out some of those edges for me. It's still not perfectly rounded. We'll do that at the very tail end of this assignment, but pretty soon it's looking like a baseball bat. So now we want to switch from our solid view into our material view. We can even click on the rendered view if you wanted to. And this is going to show you what our baseball bat looks like. Now you can change the properties, so you can change the color and anything else you want to, just like we've done in the past. Over here in the properties menu and the materials menu, you can change the base color. Again, if you click on that little yellow dot there, right by the base color, so not the white dot there, the yellow one, that's the one you want. Over here you see there's a texture section, and you can scroll down, and there's a number of different preloaded textures, or we can do image texture. Now give it a second to load, and you're going to see your baseball bat turns into kind of this nothingness, right? So we're going to click on Open, And then in my case, I have my wood texture saved in my downloads folder. So I'm going to click on wood texture JPEG, and you can give it a second, and it's going to stretch that picture around your object, and there you go. That looks like a baseball bat, right? How crazy is that? Now, notice that the texture, it looks like the wood grain, but it's really smooth right now, isn't it? Right? You can't really feel the wood grain texture. Maybe it's a little bit too stretched out as well. We want to give it a little bit more here. So let's do this. Up at the top, I'm going to click on UV editing. This window on the left-hand side is going to be where my image goes, the wood texture, and over on the right-hand side is obviously my baseball bat. Notice that the baseball bat is also in this wireframe view, and that's on purpose. So we're going to use that in a moment. So what we need to do is import our wood grain texture, this material that we've been using. We need to import it. So on the left-hand side, on the top, you'll see there's New and Open. See at the top there? And we're going to click on this little drop-down window, and there's our preloaded wood, because we've already opened it previously for the baseball bat, so it's right there. When I select all by clicking the A key, that texture, those geometric forms appear on the left-hand side on my wood grain. And I can move this around just by selecting them, right? I can move this around, and that instantly changes the texture that is on my baseball bat. So if I wanted to make this a little bit smaller, a little bit larger, I could select them. And then I'm just clicking the G key, G for grab, that's the shortcut for your move tool. And I can move and shrink this around. I can scale it just like we did before. Here's my move tool, right? So there you go, right? Okay. So again, you can really move and migrate this texture around. You're welcome to overlap these pieces. Oh, looks like I missed a little piece of the circle there. I need to adjust that. I'll get that in a moment. But you can overlap these pieces. That's perfectly fine. I'll show you in a moment how you can adjust the circles, which are the top and the bottom of your baseball bat as well. So let's move this one, just this one little anchor point here. We'll move that right back. Okay, that's better. All right, so looking pretty good. All right, so here we are again. We're just gonna keep shifting over here. I'm gonna click on the shading tab real quick, and this is a whole different window. Now, what this is gonna allow me to do is to really start to bring and add a three-dimensional texture, like a wood grain, into the actual baseball bat. And it's going to use the photograph that we've already imported as this texture. Okay, so again, it's really, really smooth right now. We want to add this kind of deepened wood grain. Anywhere that it's a darker color, it's going to sink in. Anywhere that it's a lighter color, it will pop out. And we can adjust how severe those crevices are. Okay, so all right, there's our baseball bat. In the bottom portion here, this is really where we're going to be hanging out. These are nodes. And notice how there's one for our wood texture, there's one for the principal BSDF, that's just the color itself. There's our wood grain texture. And the material output, the red one there, is just simply saying this is what the end result looks like. Okay, so look at it as kind of a straightforward line of thought. We have this wood grain texture, it goes through the principal BDSF, and then it becomes an output. So I'm going to actually add one new anchor point here, and we want to add one that is a displacement node. Okay. Now that I've got that, I'm going to plug displacement into displacement on our material output. Doesn't really do anything, but you'll see what happens in a second. When I stretch the wood grain color into my displacement, so now I've got kind of this loop going on, right? Imagine what I'm telling the computer to do. I want the color output here for my BDSF into my surface. So now I've made a big loop. It goes from wood grain texture into my principled shader, and that comes out on the output. But I also want to add, kind of linking these chords together, I'm adding a displacement map, right? And how deep I make this displacement will make the wood grain really, really three-dimensional. So you can adjust these numbers, this height and scale here, the mid-level and the scale. You can adjust these. The deeper you go, or the higher you go, excuse me, the deeper that wood grain. The lower that you go, then obviously the more shallow. So think about what a baseball bat feels like, right? You can feel the wood grain, but it is sanded. It's relatively smooth. So we can, again, kind of play with those a little bit. You make them as deep and wood grainy as you'd like it to be. So again, we're going from wood texture to displacement to output. We're going from wood texture to our principled BDSF to output. So those two interconnect, and now you've got yourself a 3D textured object. Okay. Just while we're here, I'm jumping back to the UV editor real quick. I'm going to select this the top circle, and I'm just going to grab it, and I can move it around. I can rotate it. Notice just because I have only that top circle selected, that's why it's only showing it in my texture window there in the UV editor. I can rotate it as well and try to match a little bit more with that wood grain texture. It's almost like this was a real baseball bat and it's been sliced right down the middle there, right? And I can do the exact same for the bottom of the baseball bat as well. And again, I'm just going to come down here. Whoa. Come down here real quick. There we go. Zoom out. And I'm going to select the ring. Again, I'm doing that by clicking on my mouse, or clicking my mouse and holding down that command key there, and it selects the entire circle. There we go. And again, just going to rotate it to kind of match that wood grain texture. You don't necessarily have to do that on yours. I just want to show you that that's an option to select just a small portion of the overall texture. And you can really adjust that how you want to. All right, so looking good. Let's go on back to our main layout view. This is where we were previously. You'll notice again that it's relatively smooth, and that's because we're not in the rendered view. So let's make sure that you're in object mode. Okay. Now, we're going to add one more here. I'm going to add a modifier. That's the one that looks like a wrench. We're going to do subdivision surface modifier. And I can turn these up a little bit, these levels here, and play with them, right? But the more you turn it up, the smoother this baseball bat is going to become, okay? So there we go. We've got a very smooth, fully rendered, three-dimensional, and textured baseball bat. It seems like a whole lot, and those nodes can get a little confusing, right? But I want you to be aware of how much you've learned in a very short amount of time. In less than 10 minutes, you have fully created this design. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully you can see that kind of grooved texture and looks pretty cool to you. If you ever have any questions, make sure to always reach out to your teachers. That's what we're here for, and we're very happy to help you every single step of the way. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks so much, and I look forward to talking to you next time. Bye-bye.